Hi guys, this is Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we've got the Buck 721 Slimline knife made to be distributed at Walmart. To look at, it's an aluminum handled knife with their 420 high carbon steel blade. Just around, well, we'll call it a 3-inch knife. We'll talk about the exact specs later on. So if you're interested in a knife like this, and I'm liking it a fair bit, stick around for the full review. This buck comes in several different colors. That's the first thing that we'll talk about. It comes in this sort of green, this anodized green with this orange backspacer. You can get it in a just sort of an aluminum steel kind of satin look with a matching backspacer. The only ones that I saw at my local Walmart was this green one and the all sort of steel colored looking one, the silvery one. They come in a package like this clam pack. And you can see proudly made in the United States. Forever warranty. A really good buy for having a knife that's made in the US. 420HC steel. This is a nail nick knife, but as you saw in the intro, you can just give the knife a flick and the blade comes out. Thankfully, CBSA didn't inspect this shipment when it came into Canada, or they'd all be considered centrifugal knives and we wouldn't have them around here. Those guys at CBSA. It's actually the force of inertia that makes the knife open at this pivot holding it, and then the inertia moves the blade around. It's not centrifugal or centripetal force or centrifugal force or any of those at play. But the knife the knife laws that CBSA interprets as centrifugal knife law, this is what they mean. A knife where you can hold onto the handle and give it a flick and the blade will come out. That's what they don't like letting into the country. Although that's actually a slower way to deploy a blade than if you had like a nice thumb stud here and you could just flick it out, right? It's kind of weird. They're trying to keep us safe by stopping us from having knives that open more slowly than other knives. That's enough of my rant. I'm just in that mood today. Let's get back to this buck. It comes from the package, or the factory, I should say, with this pocket clip on this end here. That spot right there is just a little bit of thread lock residual dried off liquid from it. So that I can just wipe that off, no problem. They do put blue thread locker on all of the screws here, which is a good thing. The blue is the medium or the temporary, it's not the permanent locking. That being said, I did take this knife apart so I could take a picture of the insides for you. Not a good idea for you to take it apart because since I put it back together again, I can't get it as snug as it was. There was no blade play side to side or up and down at all when I got the knife and when I first used it for a little while. But now it does have just slight blade play up and down, very slight. And that wasn't there before. I took it apart to see what kind of washers it has, and it does not have washers. Very interesting. We've got these aluminum plates. Here, take a look at the picture of the knife apart. And you saw that little steel plate right in this area. It actually, this hole goes through the steel plate and it comes up and goes over this to stay in place. And so it's a steel plate, that's about that shape, that is on both sides of the blade because you can't have this knife pivoting on aluminum. The aluminum is going to wear off so fast and it'll just become a loose, sloppy knife in no time. And so they put those stainless steel inserts in the place of washers. It's actually not a bad idea. It's functional and it works. And, it's nice and smooth. And you can deploy the blade that way if you want. Or you can use your nail nick and use a two-hand system to deploy the blade. I think this knife would do well with thumb studs. I think they would work really well. You could deploy the blade much quicker with one hand if you had thumb studs in here. We've got aluminum handle scales, steel, aluminum backspacer back here. This one's anodized orange. And then that's about it. Let's talk about the dimensions of this knife. We've got a drop point blade with a cutting edge of 7.35 centimeters, which is 2.9 inches. The blade thickness is 2.9 millimeters, which is 0.115 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind is 0.52 millimeters, which is 0.02 inches. I call half a millimeter the perfect EDC dimension for a knife. To have a behind the grind thickness of half a millimeter is just right. It meets that compromise between being able to slice things like tomatoes and being able to cut through things like wood and things that are harder. If you get too much thinner, the edge gets a little weak. And if you get too much thicker, it just takes too much force to cut through things. And this guy is barely over that half a millimeter thickness at 0.52. The handle length of this knife is 11.2 centimeters, which is 4.4 inches. And the thickness of this handle is just under a centimeter, 0.95 centimeters or 9.5 millimeters, if you will. And that equals 0.375 inches. And the total length of this knife when it's open is 19.3 centimeters, which is 7.6 inches. And it's a little bit heavier than Buck says that it is. It is 100 grams, which is 3.5 ounces. And Buck says that it should be 90.7 grams and 3.2 ounces. My scale is quite accurate. I've tested it and calibrated it. Let's talk about where you can buy this knife. As I said in the intro, at least I believe I did, this knife is a knife that was designed for sale at Walmart. Walmart's so big, it has that kind of pull that they can have knives made specially for them. If places like Blade HQ, if stores like Blade HQ can have special runs of knives made just for them, of course Walmart can as well. And that's where this Slimline comes in. Its model number is 721, and it looks very much like the 722 Spitfire. In fact, a number of the websites that sell this knife or claim to sell this knife have, the number 721 Slimline on there, but they have a picture of the 722 Spitfire on there. I'll show you two of those. There's Walmart. There's even Canadian Tire here in Canada that does that. Amazon as well, same thing. I've looked at a number of different American reviews, and they all say that this knife has a regular price of $30 at Walmart. So if you can find this at your local Walmart, you will find it for $30 or less. The reason I say less is I think this guy's on clearance. It is at our local Walmart here in Canada, here in Alberta, and that's why I got it for 30 Canadian dollars, which is right around 22, 23 American dollars. So that's enough of that. What are the pros and cons of this knife? One of the pros is it's a good budget price. And for what you pay for, you get a good knife. It's a nice heavy blade at just under 3 millimeters. It's got a very nice grind on it. This hollow grind works very well. And so it's very functional for doing all your basic EDC tasks. I just had a great time with it. And because there are no thumb studs in the way, it's great for slicing through stuff. Nothing gets in the way. Some knives that have the thumb studs too far up, you cut through something and then it hits the thumb stud. That's no good. So these nail neck knives don't have that issue ever. Another really good thing about this knife is the 4-way pocket clip. And I'll demonstrate right now. I've got it in the tip down position because I don't mind tip down at all. And in the tip down position, it looks like that. You've got you got about 1/4 of an inch of knife sticking out at the apex here, just a little bit less than a centimeter. And if you put the pocket clip on the tip up position, you'll have much more of the knife sticking out. I'll put in a still picture right now of what it looks like. So that's what it looks like if you have the tip up position with the pocket clip. Jimping. That's another big thing that I like about this knife. It's got some mild jimping on the thumb ramp here. and that's pretty good. It's just aggressive enough that it actually helps. But the jimping that they put on the handle scales here, it looks like they took a drill and just drilled in a tiny little ways, so it's got a scoop out like a quarter of a circle, half a circle almost. Same thing down here at the belly of the handle. And it actually provides a good amount of purchase. You'd think that a knife like this would be slick because it's all this flat aluminum, but just that little bit of jimping there and there give this knife a really good grip and purchase no matter how you want to hold this knife. And you can hold this knife every single which way that you think you would want to hold a knife. You can even sneak up your hand up here and put it in that area. I like that you've got some color options. So those people who like color, you can get that. Those people who just want all satin or whatever, that's good. I would like if they did a stonewash edition. I always say that for every knife. I really like stonewash. And if they did a stonewash of the aluminum as well, that'd be looking really good, I think. What's the con on this knife? I don't know if there is a con. The con basically is that it's not deep enough carry when you do tip up. Yeah, that's about the only con I can think of. But that's very, very common. On knives that give a four-way carry or even just tip up or tip down, it's almost always the case that tip down goes in deeper than tip up. It's just the way companies design their knives. Let's do some cut tests and show you how well this thing cuts. Here we've got some newsprint, very light paper. And it slices just fine with a push cut. No problems at all. And if it can push cut through newsprint, you know that it can push cut through, all your basic papers. No problem at all. We've got some dense but thin twine here, and it can just zip through that stuff, no problem at all. And it can slice through it very easily as well. No problem doing that. Let's get a couple layers of paracord going here. We're going to do a push cut through the paracord, and it cuts through that very easily. I really like that half a millimeter behind the grind cutting. That's what really helps this thing to do that push cut through this paracord so very well. If it was heavier, I wouldn't be able to push cut through as well. And this knife just works very well. What do I have here? I've got 9-strand 550 paracord. And that's nice, heavy, thick stuff. So it's a good knife. I like it a lot. It feels great in the hand. Being that 3.5 ounces, it's nice and light, very EDCable. Being so thin, it's quite discreet in your pocket. It's a 420 HC steel is a very good budget steel. Nothing to complain about there. One thing that you don't notice on this knife when it's in store, because it comes closed, is this recurve here. And that recurve is actually helpful for cutting. I like it a lot. I don't mind it. It's not that dramatic that it's hard to sharpen. Not that recurves are hard to sharpen anyways once you've learned that skill. It's not a hard skill to learn. So don't shy away from recurve knives. So this knife by Buck, with its forever warranty, very low price, good looks, a durable enough steel, a good enough steel. I think this is a definite buy. It's on clearance, so if you can find it, I would say pick one up. If you can't find one, I guess you're out of luck, but it's a very nice knife. So there you go. Very good knife, good, well designed by an American company, made in the USA. Thank you for liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, and remember, always cut towards your chum, that is the other guy, not your thumb.